GameStop brutally kills one of gaming's most iconic magazines, the potential WoW killer that's not even an MMO, and the cancelled Destiny spin-off inspired by Genshin Impact. I'm Ash Dixon, and this is Ginx News. After a heroic 33 years, Game Informer has been shut down. The longest running gaming magazine in the US, it's hard to quantify its impact on gaming over the last few decades. Most notably, its covers, which featured some of the best artwork in gaming, beautifully teasing what were to become our favorite games. The decision to shut it down comes from its owner GameStop, who, to be frank, has handled the closure in a disgusting manner. Because along with the magazine disappearing, that means all of its staff have been laid off too. And yet again, in what seems to be a trend in this industry, people were given basically zero notice. And perhaps Game Informer's closure evokes a poignant sadness and you'd like to visit the website and reminisce on some of those wonderful features. Well, too bad, because GameStop has made the unfathomable decision to replace every single page with the farewell statement. A statement which, according to Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, very much could be generated by ChatGPT.
They're the same picture.
Either way, I really hope GameStop U-turns on this ASAP, because those years of work deserve to be immortalized. Plus, as CD Projekt Red's Radek Grabowski points out, those Game Informer covers serve as such an important time capsule for gaming history. Just look at how Borderlands and Fortnite were first presented and compare that to what they've become. And as you would expect, so many massive names in gaming have now spoken out to share their condolences. If there is a silver lining though, through researching this story, we did find an extremely niche subgenre of ASMR YouTube videos, which is just someone flicking through Game Informer. But man, I feel bad for the kids of today who will never know that magazine magic. It's hard to describe just how fondly I look back at those times. As a kid here in the UK, Games Master was my magazine of choice, and every month I'd rinse that thing for every reveal, announcement, and review. And ironically, as someone that grew up broke, I didn't have any hope of owning any of these games, but at least these magazines opened the window to a world that I so desperately wanted to be a part of. Games Master's final issue was in 2018, and now Game Informer follows in its tragic footsteps. And considering the rapid decline of print media, if anything, it's a testament to Game Informer's quality that it's even lasted this long. It is just such a shame that its demise has not been met with the grace and decorum it deserves from GameStop. Do hit us up in the comments though if you're a fan of Game Informer, or perhaps you had a different magazine of choice growing up. I'd love to hear about it. And while we're talking about games journalism, I'll do a quick plug for our Patreon, Ginx Plus. It truly means the world that people are willing to back us, and we're trying to return the favor with loads of great content all in one place. So thank you. Love late game dungeons and raids, but hate the grind of leveling and questing? Well, Fellowship is the new non-MMO dungeon adventure game aimed directly at hardcore MMO players. And looking at the announcement trailer, I got the same thought I did when I first saw the Plucky Squire. I thought, that's a freaking great idea, how has no one done this sooner? Visually, you'll immediately be at home if you've ever played WoW. You've got the classic looking action bar, a smooth looking UI that looks familiar to your favorite add-ons, and a clean cartoon fantasy aesthetic, though without the engine, older than 25% of the human population. And the game is simple. You simply jump in with friends or randoms to complete 4-person dungeons, taking on one of those classic tank, healer, or DPS roles. There's adventure dungeons that last around 10 to 15 minutes and ranked dungeons that last around half an hour, but taking direct inspiration from Mythic Plus from WoW, you'll get bigger rewards for completing them at higher difficulties and within a certain time limit. Your power progresses through gear and skill trees, but one major difference here is that it is hero-based as opposed to class-based. Now, as Chief Rebel is a smaller studio, I imagine using heroes just cuts down on the workload massively, but man, I can't help but feel like they're shooting themselves in the foot here by excluding character customization. In fact, the feedback in the comments is pretty unanimous. Everyone likes how the game looks, but by God, do they not want heroes. Plus, the game's own design director is a peak example of how incredible you can look when you use the IRL character customization. So please, let us do the same in your game. If they're the ones in charge of the options, I know my character is gonna look sick. Right now, the game is still in early development, so raids are planned later down the line. But if you want to take part in the closed alpha playtest, you can sign up via the website. And I'm curious what you think. Perhaps you used to love MMOs, but you just don't have time to grind it out anymore. Or maybe you're worried this will be just as toxic as Mythic Plus in WoW. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. It's time for the quickfire round. First up, Avowed has been delayed until early 2025. Remember Avowed, Obsidian's game that looks like The Elder Scrolls, but totally isn't The Elder Scrolls? It's yet another blow for Xbox, who were desperate for some first-party wins. Last year was abysmal, with just 3 big titles. And with Avowed now being delayed until February 18th next year, Microsoft are now gaslighting us into believing they're having a huge 2024 thanks to this image. No Xbox, Black Ops 6, and 2 Blizzard expansions do not count. God, imagine how depressing this year would be if the Activision acquisition fell through. At least 2025 is looking pretty spicy. Next up, Destiny was meant to get a third-person Genshin/Warframe spin-off game. It was in the works at Bungie and was cancelled as of 2 months ago. Details of the project have emerged since the horrific round of layoffs last week. Apparently, it was a co-op PvE game where you'd battle monsters and solve puzzles. Kinda sounds like a live service microtransaction hellscape. Maybe I'm wrong. I just have zero trust in Bungie's leadership at this point. Moving on, Noah Lyles clinched the 100-meter gold in the closest race in Olympic history. Sadly, he didn't whip out any Yu-Gi-Oh cards like in previous races, though he did celebrate with an iconic Kamehameha. Also, shout out to the BBC commentator who described his performance like this.
He came fast, he came strong, he came hard.
And finally, iShowSpeed spent his weekend jumping over 2 supercars live on stream. It's equal parts impressive and stupid. Some people are calling it fake. This second angle begs to differ. Either way, let's begin the countdown for one of his fans to die when they inevitably try to replicate the stunt. And that's the show! Thanks a ton for watching. If you enjoy the show, please consider subscribing. We make Ginx news every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so until then, have an awesome week.